Hola, ¿cómo estás? ¿Estás bien? How goes the day? All right. Yep, something want to sleep. All right. No doggy. All right. Getting a little dinner in there. So, has it been an interesting 48 hours or has it been an interesting 48 hours? Anyway, so getting prepared for my February challenges. And I guess it's super cold out tonight. I didn't want to leave my mead out on the porch so it wouldn't freeze. I don't imagine mead freezing would be great, but I'm getting ready for February and my adventures in February. So I think I'm probably I'm debating whether or not I want to do the progress videos of the projects I do on this channel, on Roving Jack channel, or on the Opportunity Forge channel. I'm not sure yet. I'm not sure which makes the most sense for me. I debated on the possibility of splitting them up all over the place, but it doesn't feel quite right. I do think I'll probably do the updates on here of things I do in time. It has no sound. It better have sound. I'll have to go back and edit it and take a look at it. That one was uploaded a couple days ago, several days ago. That's interesting. That was pre-recorded on OBS. I guess I'll have to go back and mess with it. That's definitely an interesting. Thanks for letting me know. The file have it, but I guess something happened to the upload process and the scheduled upload. Everything else over on Roving Jack has been going all right? There haven't been any dropped sound qualities for there. All right, so I'm going to go see if I can pull that up. Frackin'. I wondered why that uploaded so easily. I guess that may just be because it didn't incorporate the sound file when it uploaded it. It must have recorded them separately. I may have to reshoot it. Fine. I guess I'll do double load tonight because I'm working on a book review for here too. Stupid. All right, I will go and see. It's just so. Why is everybody always picking a fight with me? I will pull that listing down as unlisted. Save. I will review it, and I will probably have to reshoot. All right. Yeah, edit. It's not the worst thing that's happened. Stupid. All right. So anyway, thinking about going forward, like, do I do each day's project as a recorded and edited video here? I don't think I want to do that for February. I feel like for the February projects, I'm going to have 26 of them. And so that's an awful lot to do as individual recordings on here. I got a micro SD card with some recording space on my cell phone now, specifically for recording it, because I'm pretty sure I can set this up as my recording camera for a top-down video of what I'm working on. And then from there, I can probably do minimal editing and this has time-lapse capability. That's one of the things I kind of got to testing in the last few days, because it was one of the things I was thinking of. This has time-lapse capability that I am sort of kind of excited to play with. So time-lapse has 4 times, 8 times, 16 times, and 32 times. So basically what that means is if I set this up at a still shot, and I might be able to use something like this for stop motion animation too, which makes me very curious, because at 32 times, it'll take a shot every 32 seconds. So I have 32 seconds to move something around before the next shot. And I can just let it run taking those shots every 32 seconds. And if you pop that in there at, what is it? What's the standard? I think it's 30 frames per second is the standard video format. Sometimes 60 frames a second. So it would take you, so every half minute, so a 15-minute recording would get you like 1 minute of recording. I mean, it's a pay-as-you-go phone, so I mean, I can put apps on it, but it automatically has a time-lapse video format, and I tested it out the other day with a just a shot of me crossing and uncrossing my legs in different patterns, and it's like a 4-second recording when you play it back, but it covers many times that amount of time. And so I do think I could use that for recording projects in work. And it would be essentially like speed running through the project. I've debated a few things in my head about whether or not I wanted to do a it's assembling itself kind of video, or if I wanted to do them more as a as me moving at lightning fast speed, and you see me moving fast frame through the work on the project. And I'm not sure. I'm not sure the way I want to end up doing it. But I feel like those works in progress videos are better suited maybe to Roving Jack as a channel where I do tinkering and whatnot. This is a little bit more of review and talking about the ideas and making them real, but not necessarily a tutorial or a walkthrough of the process. I mean, I can do a kind of analysis of what it took to do some of these things, but I don't think what I want to do is have 26 videos in the month of February uploaded, and what I'm debating is what it looks like I'm going to be spending a lot of time doing on the Opportunity Forge channel is going to be videos of me learning new skills. And there are some of these projects that I will be doing in February that are kind of new experimental projects. So I've never done any knife making, not like standard knife making. I've dabbled a little bit with playing around with sharpening random pieces of junk to make a usable cutter, but not an actual knife making process. I don't think I've ever, well, I've done some bookbinding. I've done some salt dough. I've done some felting, done some glass stuff. But I mean, those are just going to be me playing and experimenting and tinkering. And I feel like I can show the finished project when I finish them. But the recorded and edited build on them, I think I'm probably going to end up doing as, for many of these, probably over on Roving Jack. And I did finally sort of come to the answer for what I'm going to do for almost all of them. I have an idea for the Xerox art one, which is a possible idea. I don't know if that's what I'm going to end up doing or not. I'll just play and see. But what were the ones we were still trying to figure out last time? So hair was going to be brushes, like paint brushes that I can make myself. And what I'm probably going to do for that is I'm going to go visit my mom and drop off some things and do some paperwork stuff with her. And she has a dog. And I'd be willing to bet you that if I brushed that dog, I could get plenty of hair. And they're going to be the short little bristle type hairs that dog has. It's a golden lab. I would be willing to bet you that I could get enough hairs to make several brushes just by brushing that dog once. That's one of the things we're going to do. I figured out what I'm going to do for the leather project, actually. I forget what I was talking about potentially doing last time. But I was looking at some of the leather kits that are out there. And like there's so many of them, like make a wallet, make a bracelet, make a hair tie, make a purse. And I'm like, I don't want any of those things. Like, what are the things that I genuinely want? You know, when I'm finished this series of projects, I'm going to have things that I want for each of them. And I was looking at a couple options to see what was out there, and there's some very simple plans for how to make a keepsake box, which I could definitely use for game pieces. So for like dice and things like that, I'm like, yeah, I could see that being something I would use. And so I'm going to probably do something like that. So that's a leather kit. The napkin rings, I knew I wanted to do a heart-shaped napkin ring because I have a connection with that in a story element, and it's probably going to happen sometime around Valentine's Day anyway. So heart-shaped napkin rings. I figured out how I want to do those now. So I know the medium and the format and the theme and the style and the technique that I want to use to do that. So I think I've pretty much got that one figured out. I just got to get the raw materials. Now, origami was one we were playing around with as trying to figure out what I was going to do for that one. And the duct tape one, I think we settled on tool belt, and that works for me. I'm going to use a pattern for making a tool belt and see if I can make a duct tape tool belt. And then the UV layer, it's turning out harder than I thought it would be to find UV specific paints or inks that would work on many surfaces. So I may end up having to make my own. I'll think about it, see what my options are. I might get some UV inks and see if I can blend them into like an epoxy or something like that. The whistles, there are a couple of options of the format I can use for those. So whittle a wooden whistle with a winter theme. And I almost want to turn that into a tongue twister. Whittle a little wooden whistle with a winter theme. How many times fast can you say that? Yeah, so most of this I've got mostly figured out. I'm probably going to have to sit down and do some thinking on the final designs for some of these, just so I can, plan out and figure out the actual, like the astronomy. I know what I want to do for that one. The salt dough, I know is one of the ones I'm going to do for dough. Collage is one of the ones I'm going to do. But a collage of what? What am I going to sculpt in salt dough? That kind of thing. So I got to figure out like the actual designs I'm going to use for them. And I feel like because February is 28 days, and there are 26 days of letters for the alphabet, like giving myself that first day to really sit down and design the thing for each of those projects in a day, that sounds ambitious enough as it is, but I'm inclined to just give it a go. And I think some of these projects I will have to prioritize, because as much as I want to say that I'm going to do 26, one per day, I know that my life is going to have enough days where I won't have the chance to work on something, that I will probably try to knock out 5 or 6 that I can cluster together in a day, knock those out, do a few individual or 1 or 2 per day projects for the rest of the week, and then maybe another cluster day of 5 or 6 in a day. And that should get me 14, get me about halfway through the month at that point, in the first week and a half. So I'm thinking that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. Now, it gets harder if I'm going to be recording the in-process work of everything that I'm doing. But I think I can do it. I'm going to be testing out some new equipment, and it's not really like amazing equipment, but I will probably do the tests as reviews on this channel. And from there, I'll probably get the chance to dabble with some of that for this channel a little bit more. I do think I will probably, I will have to go over the list of projects that I am going to work on and see which ones are more about learning and trying new skills, and which ones are more about tinkering and creation. I might split those up between Roving Jack and Opportunity Forge. We'll see. I don't imagine I will have to do that. I'm just looking at, we have 26 of them. If I did, what there, 26 projects, how many Saturdays are there between now and, so how many weeks? And there's 52 weeks, I think. So I could probably do every other week upload one of those videos for the rest of the year. And that would get me all the way to the end of the year as something to do every other week. Yeah, that's not bad. And I think Opportunity Forge can be a little bit more about the learning new skills aspect of it. I can just see what I can do with it. So for those projects, we've got astronomy, book, collage, dough, egg, felt, glass, hair, inlay. I've started to get some of the equipment together for that. Jewelry, knife, leather, mask. I'm still debating whether or not I'm going to do a plague doctor mask or a different kind of mask that I've been thinking about. I mean, we're in a pandemic. You might as well get an actual usable mask if you want to. But napkin rings, origami. I was thinking about origami after the last video, and I could do the foil origami. I could also make. This is so silly, but there's some foldable patterns you can use to make hats. And some of them are like you could make an origami baseball cap, but you could also do an origami wizard's hat and an origami top hat. And so there's a part of me, like, if I do a top hat, I'm going to do the Mad Hatter style hat with the marker for the size of the hat on the side. If I do a wizard's hat, I'm going to make it a wearable hat. I'm not going to do a baseball cap. So I was thinking probably top hat or wizard's hat predominantly. I could probably get large enough pieces of paper to do it, but there's part of me that's also amused by potentially building a tinfoil hat, but actually origami folding a giant tinfoil hat. But the other thing I remember from years ago, I haven't done it in a long time, so I'd be curious to try it again, was I used to do what most people called micro origami. I would fold, I can remember, I went to a fair one time, a science fiction convention, and I was folding some origami out of scrap paper, and they had like one of those take an origami class, and I just showed up just because I didn't have anything else scheduled for that time, and I wanted to help some people out if they needed any backup or anything. And so I was folding from the scraps of the packaging that the origami paper came in. So there was this little label that came in the package like this big, and I tore that into, I think, 6 or 8 squares. So these tiny little squares, and I'd fold them into origami cranes. And when I folded a bunch of these together, you had these super micro origami cranes that I made. And I showed it off to a guy who had been talking about origami at one of his panels about like the mythology and history of art forms in other cultures. And so I went to his art table at the convention, and I showed him my origami, and he goes, "What is that? Is it a little like piece of like crumpled paper?" And I went, "No, that's a crane. If you look at it real close." He freaked the heck out. And it was funny because he's like, "We got to take a picture of it, but we need something for reference." And so I took a dime out of my pocket, and you could fit about 2.5, almost 3 of my little origami cranes across the face of a dime. And so I used to do a lot of that kind of tiny folding. Over here on my table here, I used to get some of these kinds of things at craft stores. These are little glass vials, and I could make a lanyard around them. And in the little glass vial, I would fold these tiny little pieces of origami, and set them in the vials and sell them at a craft table. And I can't remember some of the patterns I used to use. I did geeky ones, like the 1-Up mushroom from Super Mario. I did a Triforce from Zelda, and a few of those kinds of things. But I think I could probably only remember how to do the Triforce. I'm not even sure I could remember to do it the right way for that. The 1-Up mushroom was much more something I would do again if I could remember my pattern for it, and I don't remember the pattern for the mushroom. But I could have some fun doing that again. So I thought maybe possibly I could do a micro origami as my origami project. Pyrography, we kind of said I was going to do a vase or a lamp base. Now there's an interesting way to do stuff like to build a simple vase. If you go to a Home Depot and you buy that molding, like crown molding that goes along the edges of the ceiling and stuff like that, you get a strip of that and you cut it at either 45-degree angles or other angles. You can actually make them the border for like the neck and the base, and then you take a simple thin plywood or some other wooden structure and build your centerpiece of the same sort of angle cuts on the edges, and you just edge them together, and then you put the base and you put the top on it, and you've got a simple wooden base. And if you know what you're doing, you can clamp them together real easily into a finished product. That is like a foundation for starting one. But if you do it out of wood, you can set it up so that you have a lot of flat, smooth wood in the middle that you can do wood burning on. And so I think that's probably what I'm going to end up doing. Duct tape tool belt. The Xerox art is the one I admit to finding a sort of excited curiosity to play with. I did try to find a couple of the places I used to be able to get a photocopy. Like you'd go in, you'd put a quarter in, and you put your document down, and it would print out a copy of what you're doing. I was hoping to be able to find out where I could do that. I still haven't found a place that has one that I could use. Because to me, much like with origami, like there are papercraft projects that I would love to do, but they're not origami. So I'm not going to pretend that they count as origami. That would offend my personal belief of what origami is. I built a design for some earrings that look like trilobites. You don't start with a square. There is some cutting involved, and therefore it is not origami. And as much as I would love to be able to take that copper foil that I used to use and fold up a copper trilobite earring, I am not going to call that origami. And by the same token, I'm pretty sure I could take some photographs and digitally manipulate them to layer them like photocopy art, but it's not photocopy art. And it's sometimes called Xerox art or photocopy art, but it's also called xerography artworks. Xerography is the process, and where Xerox gets its name is from xerography. Xerography is a process. It's not a trademark name necessarily, but it involves charging a pattern onto a piece of paper and heat treating a what's that called? Toner onto the page. So unless the thing I use uses toner and is technically a form of xerography, I am not going to cheat to get that one. So I have to get a hold of some people and see if I can find out if anybody has a photocopier that I could use for my art project. And there's a part of me that feels like, if I manage to do this well enough, I could imagine an entire series of 30 to 100 artworks that I could probably put together around a theme or technique using xerography. And I feel like if I can get a good enough quality work together, I might even be able to go down to like a Staples or an Office Max or something like that and say, hey, I've got this work. Can you run 100 copies of each of these works? And it would be a bulk order of like printing. And they'd photocopy off those works for me. I could sign them and number them and then make them saleable artworks on a website. Like, I could totally do that. That's selling prints of your artwork. I probably wouldn't sell them for a whole lot, but I also would love to try to do like a gallery show of the Xerox art or the xerography art. So that's got my brain running around in an inspired little circle right now. Like, I'm going to be engraving things onto ZD, so that one has sort of an amusement factor that entertains me as well. But there is a fair amount of stuff on here that I have like in my mind. There's potential to go play with some of this stuff. So I don't know if at the end of this process, if I'm going to go over to, there's a local, I don't know if it's still running, I should look into it, but there's a local crafts market stall thing that they do in a local mall. And it's like every Saturday they're open. And if your work is of interest, you can display your stuff in there for sale. And I think it would be kind of fun just to go to a pitch meeting and just say to them, oh, okay, here are some of the things that I've been working on. I can make a whole bunch more of each of these things. You just let me know which ones you're interested in maybe having in the store. I think it'd be a weird way to do it, but I got to see if there's other art galleries in the area. There's not a lot of art gallery kind of environment in this area of New Hampshire. And so, I mean, it would be hard for me to really kind of gauge what would be worth pitching to a gallery at some point. I might, and I've had this idea for a little while, seeing if I could get together with a couple other local artists and put together a gallery that we run jointly. Real estate's expensive here, though, so we'd have to figure out something serious to make that work. But I mean, just looking at my list, if I did decorative bookbinding for journals, collage, salt dough, decorated eggs, felted creations, glass etching, inlay in woodwork, jewelry, some leather craft, napkin rings, and other crafty items. I could probably start making my micro origami in earring format or pendant format. Pyrography, paper quilling. I could make some rings in the style that I wanted to make them in. Sgraffito is very artsy stuff, so you could do some interesting things with that. The UV layered glass artworks, if they work as well as I hope they would work, they could be part of an like a series that I sell to a gallery or something like that. Um, the visual focus depth one, I don't have as much excitement about that one as some of the others. And like the whistles, maybe not anything specifically exciting on that core, but um, maybe for the local craft market, make a series of a bunch of those for sale for cheap and easy. Um, the engraved plaster, maybe a few decorative pieces, but I don't see that being something I do a lot of time with. If I do engraving on pasta and then can metal coat them, I can see maybe doing a run of weird artware. And the Xerox art, honestly, if I could do a series on those, that would be just fun to play with. And that would be I would so much enjoy the idea of just being able to play with those things and sell them and share my creative things and get feedback from galleries or other artists and that kind of stuff. I would love that kind of thing. I wish we had more of that going around this state. I just don't feel like there's a lot. Like we have occasional crafts fairs, or we used to before the pandemic. Um, but I mean, it was always like, you pay $300 for a table at this crafts fair. Um, and at that point, it's like a big name crafter in the state of New Hampshire with 5 or 10 of their friends, and the sort of gatekeeping. So you like nobody can get into their crafts fair without like being part of the in crowd or paying an exorbitant amount of money. And I'm like, I'm not really up for that kind of BS. But I do think if I could get some of my friends together and we thought about the idea of just like a pop-up art gallery. So for a month, 2 or 3 of us would have um, our artwork in a display format in a small storefront somewhere in uh, the city. That'd be kind of cool. I don't know. Just some thoughts on my head. Um, I did order a few pieces of equipment for some of this. There's a part of me, like, how much can we do from just random things? I will probably get some. I'll debate about whether or not I'm going to do the felting with roving, or if I'm going to get some wool yarn. And I can sandblast glass to get an etched glass. Can also use some etching creams and a glass engraving tool. That's not too hard to do. I did get a little wooden box at the dollar store to do the metal inlay in wood. Now I just got to find the metal. Knife making, I want to reach out to some people and see if anybody's got an old table saw blade that I can hack apart, because it's about the right thickness and it's the right kind of metal for what you want to do. You just cut it into the rough shape that you want. You do some grinding, and then you do a little bit of like a heat treat, I think. I may not even need a heat treat because most of those blades are pretty hardened as they are. I think napkin ring, I'm going to need to find some metal stock. Like a not quite thin, but not quite thick metal rod. So I'm thinking somewhere probably in the range of about as thick as this pen. Maybe a little thinner. It has to be strong enough that it's not going to easily bend once I've finished bending it into its finished shape. The paints or inks for the UV project are, at this point, feeling like the hardest thing to come by. I'm sure I can get some scrapped wood to make the whistles out of. I've got some plaster. I can get the pasta cheaply. I can get duct tape at the dollar store. I know I could probably use, like, you ever see that like paper grass that they use in gift giving or in Easter baskets? I'm pretty sure I can use those strips in multiple colors that I can get cheaply, like packs of hundreds of those individual strands that you just uncrinkle and then roll. I'd be willing to bet you I could turn some of that into the paper quilling. Pyrography, I believe I have a wood burning tool. Now I just need wood. I might get the molding from the dollar store or from the home improvement store. I could get some wood from the dollar store, honestly, and just do a wood burnt pattern into the surface of that. Origami, I can just use pretty much any paper depending on what I'm making. The mask, I think, is the other thing I have to figure out, like really decide whether or not I'm going to go all out with that Plague Doctor mask. Leather kit, I've already ordered some of the things I need for that. The jewelry is something I can do easily. It's not the standard type of jewelry. It's something I came up with years ago. Glass. I'll probably have to get the glass for glass the glass etching and the UV project. And I might need to get some book board for book binding. But I can use regular copy paper for book binding. The thing about the book binding is, one of the things I want to try to do is, I came up with some designs for the books that I want to make for my role-playing and story universe that I've been building at. I want them to be hexagonal books. And I can practice the binding of a hexagonal book as an experiment here. There are a couple formats. It's very similar to a Coptic stitch, so I'll probably do that. Yeah, I mean, that's really where I'm at this point. I think I got most of it figured out. It's really just hashing out those last minute details, building a list of the things I need to buy and get here as relatively quickly as soon as I can. And then from there, plan out which ones I might be able to do in clusters and which ones I can do as one per day kind of thing, just to see if I can get myself running through a schedule right. So I think we're about 45 minutes in. I'm about to call it here for tonight. I got to go shoot a couple videos, apparently reshoot one and shoot another one. Thanks for the heads up on that, by the way. I would have never even noticed. I feel like a boob. How did that happen? I don't know. I think I'm just doing too much all at once, and I'm not able to keep track of when things don't go quite right. So there may be some mistakes that slip through the cracks on me a few times. Alrighty, so hopefully you're having some creative ideas and exploring some of your own projects and doing something with the year other than just holding on by the skin of your teeth, because this last year has been enough of that for everybody, I think. So I will catch you. What's today? Today is Thursday. I will catch you on Sunday. Is that right? Yeah. All right. I will see you on Sunday, the night before we start into February, I guess. That's not the right letter. All righty. Whew. It's supposed to be cold out today, but I feel plenty warm right now.